unmute if you have anything to add or anything to ask or anything like that. Okay, so before we begin our project, I just wanted to start off with something a little bit spiritual to relate to Chanukah a little bit as women. And maybe not everyone knows, but Chanukah is definitely a women's holiday. Did you know that? It's definitely a women's holiday, and we're going to learn a little bit about it now. So every night, does everybody sing Ma'o Sor Ma'o Sor Yeshu Wasi? Hi, Perla, by the way. Ma'o Sor Yeshu Wasi, right? We sing it every night, yes. And it's like, do we even know what we're talking about, what we're saying? Like, I know all the words by heart, but do I even know what I'm saying? Do I even think about the words? So actually, that could be like a whole class on its own, just to learn about the whole the song on its own, which we're not going to do tonight. But just to know that the basic idea of Ma'o Sor, every single paragraph talks about a different exile that the Jewish people went through. So we went through Egypt, and it talks about how Pharaoh was drowned and we were saved, right? And we went to Bavel, and the Holy Temple, the first temple was destroyed. And then the next paragraph is talking about Purim and how Haman tried to destroy us. And the next paragraph is talking about the Greeks trying to destroy us. And the last paragraph is talking about how we're still waiting and hoping and dreaming to be redeemed from this last exile, which seems so long and so like endless. I want to share this beautiful story. Excuse me if I cry, because it's such a beautiful story and it just like makes me choke up when I just even hearing it again. I just heard it today. There's this story about somebody in the Holocaust his name was Reb Melkel. He was Hasidish, and he was in Bergen-Belsen. Hold on to your seats for this one. And he was very spiritual, and his whole essence was empowering and encouraging the Jews to stay focused and to keep the Torah and to keep the mitzvot and to try to just light them up a little bit with something, with a little bit of a spark. And he would try to help them, put on tefillin or whatever it is that he was trying to do. And then he knew that Chanukah was coming up, and he was looking all over the camp for menorah, and he couldn't find anything, like something to light, something, even the first night at least, something to light, something like oil, something that had like food that he could squirt, squeeze to somewhat get some sort of like oil to light something, and he couldn't find anything. He would go around asking, did anybody pack anything? Did anybody hide anything? And everybody thought he was crazy. His job in the camp was to dispose of the dead bodies. So anybody who died of starvation would have to be disposed of, and that was his job. He would have to take the body and dispose of it. So one day, a few weeks before Chanukah, he was like really sad that he wasn't going to be able to get any Chanukah lights. And he was walking outside with, back to the camps, back to the barracks after he disposed of a body. And as he's walking, he walks over this bump on the ground, and he was like, what is this? And he quickly digs with his hand, and he sees, I'm not lying, this jar that had something congealed inside it. And his eyes lit up, and he was like, oh my gosh, is this oil? And he opens up the jar, and it's oil. And then he looks down, and there's a cloth, like a little material fabric, and inside the fabric, he opens it up, there's 8 little pieces of cotton. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. He quickly covers up the hole, and he goes back to the camp, and he asks all the people there, did you bury something? Did you put a menorah somewhere? And everybody literally thought he was crazy. Like, why would we do something like that? He wanted to make sure that he wasn't taking it from someone else. The night of Chanukah, he went back to the little lump on the ground. He digs it out, and he lights the first night of Chanukah for the entire camp. And he says the bracha in Bergen-Belsen. Rav Melkel ended up surviving. And years later, he went to Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, who is the great Satmar Rebbe. And he asked him for a bracha. And Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum said, yes, I want to speak to you privately. And he speaks to him privately. And he says to him, I heard you're the great Rav Melkel who lit the Chanukah candles in Bergen-Belsen. And he says, yes, Rebbe, how do you know? And Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum whispers in his ear. And he says, who do you think hid the menorah? He said a year before, he was actually in Bergen-Belsen. He hid a menorah and then he escaped. And he was going to take the menorah with him, but he decided, you know what, I'll leave it there. And I know Hashem, I know God will give it to the right person and let the right person find it. We have the ability to light candles every night of Hanukkah in the open. It's so easy for us. It's such a beautiful miracle. It's so easy. But what's so significant about lighting candles? So the lights are actually very spiritual. I know it looks like it's a physical thing, but it's actually a very spiritual thing. It represents the spirituality of the Jewish people. What did the Greeks try to do? The Greeks tried to destroy our spirituality. They told us that we couldn't keep the Torah. They demolished the Torah. No Torah learning. But there were 3 mitzvot, the 3 primary mitzvot that the Greeks said you cannot keep. One was, you know this? One was Shabbat. One was Rosh Chodesh, which was the sanctification of the new month. And the third one was Milah, bris Milah. You couldn't have a Brit. So Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov asks the question, why those 3 things? What the Greeks were very smart. They knew which mitzvot to get rid of, right? Why are those 3 mitzvot? Because the Greeks knew what they all represented. And Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov says that the 3 mitzvot symbolize different things in Judaism. Shabbat symbolizes God. God is the creator. We're not the creator. We don't work on Shabbat, and God still provides. We believe that the God is the creator, and that's what Shabbat symbolizes. We're not in control all the time. Rosh Chodesh, and the Greeks tried to take that away. We're in charge. We're the greatest. We're the gods of the world, right? We don't need God. We're the gods. Let's get rid of Shabbat. Let's get rid of the creator. We don't need God. The second thing that they tried to take away was Brit Milah, which represents our bodies. In Judaism, our bodies are very kadosh. They're very holy. And the Greeks thought, nah, let the bodies just run naked in the Olympics. We don't care about bodies. Bodies are in and of itself. It is what it is. And you can go free and you can do whatever you want with body. You can be with whoever you want. You can act with the way you want to. You can dress the way you want to. You don't have to dress at all. The bodies are nothing. Or they are the whatever, the goddess, And the third thing that they took away was Rosh Chodesh, which is the sanctification of the new month, which represents time. And time is such an important aspect in Judaism. Time is so precious. And for the Greeks, it was like, who needs time? We can do it whenever we want, whatever we want. And that was their whole philosophy. And they tried to get rid of that. And Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov says this beautiful idea. Listen to this. Hold on to your socks, okay? He says 3 things. 1, there's 8 days of Chanukah, and that corresponds to the 8 days of a Brit Milah. There's always a Shabbat Chanukah. Always a Shabbat during Chanukah. And there's always a Rosh Chodesh during Chanukah. That's what Chanukah is all about. Chanukah is about bringing this spirituality back into the world and showing the world you can't win. You can't take away this spirituality from us. So what does this have to do with women? So we all know the story of the Maccabees, right? The Maccabees are the ones that won the war, the physical war against the Greeks, right? But you know who was the one that actually won the war for the Jewish people? Who was the head Maccabee? Do you know that? Do you guys know? Do women know?
Judah. Judah the Maccabee.
So who was Mattatyahu? You know who Mattatyahu was? Mattatyahu was a Maccabee, right? His sister
Judah
was Yehudit. Right, exactly. Yay, Danielle. His sister was Yehudit. Yehudit was the one that actually won the war for the Jewish people. What did she do? She did something very brave. She seduced the head general. His name was Halifornis. The head general, the head Greek general. She seduced him. Sorry, they didn't know there's kids in the room. And she brought him into his tent and she fed him very salty cheese. And he was so thirsty, so she gave him some delicious heavy wine. And he got so sleepy and so drunk from the heavy cheese and the heavy wine, and he fell into a deep sleep. And she very femininely took a sword and sliced off his head and won the war for the Jewish people. And because of Yehudit, because she won the war, because she did this beautiful act of courageous act, that's why we eat chalav, we eat dairy on Chanukah. And it's actually halacha that on Chanukah, you're supposed to have some dairy. And every time you eat dairy, you should try to think of Yehudit, this courageous woman. I want to share something like that's going to literally blow your mind. I wrote it down so that it could be a little bit more clear for you when I'm going to show it to you.
Brady.
So, yeah.
So, sorry, we eat dairy because of the cheese she fed him?
Exactly. And I'm going to go into what's so special about chalav. What's so special about dairy? Chalav in Hebrew is dairy, right? Right. That's one of the things that it says, Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. That's what it says about Israel. Israel is the land of Zavat Chalav Udvash. It's like it's known for their dairy, right? Chalav. Chalav. I wrote it down. Could you see it straight or is it backwards?
No, it's straight.
Good? Okay. So what's so significant about chalav? I think I got my notes all confused here. Okay. So if you look at the word chalav, chalav is written out with chet, lamed, and vet, right? You see? Chalav. And if you take the first letter of chalav and the first letter of chodesh, and you take the third letter of Mila, which is lamed, and you take the second letter of Shabbat, which is vez, which is bet, you get the word chalav. Because chalav is the thing that saved us from this terrible decree that you can't do these 3 primary mitzvot. What's so significant about chalav? And what does it have to do with women? Well, wouldn't you think that milk is exactly what women are? Like we are the ones that nurture our babies through milk. We give our babies milk. Women are chalav. We are chodesh, Shabbos, Brit Milah. We're the ones that bring the Torah into the world, into the home. We're that keret habayit. We're the ones that bring the Jewish Torah into the home. And we're also the ones that nurture our children physically. So physically and spiritually, we're the ones that nurture our children. What does Chanukah and Bayit and the house have to do with anything? So I want to share this beautiful thing. I know that's going to all come together in a minute. Rabbi Dr. Norman Lamb from YU, he died a few years ago. He said this beautiful Yeshiva University. He said this beautiful idea. What's so significant about chalav and the bayit and the house? And Chanukah, what does it have to do with it? And Chanukah happens to be a bayit holiday, right? It's like we do it in our home. It's like known for like you're in your house for 8 days. You light the candles, you sit around it in your home, right? You don't go to shul. It's not like a shul thing, right? It's in your home. So what's so significant? And he says we have to light the candles, the menorah. I'm going to end off over here. We're going to have to light the candles, the menorah, on the left side of the door. What's on the right side of the door? The mezuzah, right? So you have on the right side of your front door your mezuzah. On the left side, you have your menorah, your lights, your candles. So why do you have to have it on both sides of the door? What's so significant about that? So a lot of the rabbis say the reason why is because you have to surround yourself with mitzvot. Surround your whole self with mitzvot. You have one mitzvah over here and one mitzvah over here, and you're underneath and you're in between, and that's amazing thing. But Rabbi Dr. Norman Lam says, okay, so then you could do anything. You could put a talit over your body and surround yourself with mitzvot and light the candles while your talit is on. You could do a lot of mitzvot and surround yourself with mitzvot. Why does it have to be specifically at the doorway of your home, at the entrance of your home? What's so significant about the threshold of your home? So he says this beautiful, beautiful idea. The threshold represents doubt. You're outside, you're inside. You have one step out, 1 foot out, one foot in. And Chanukah, on Chanukah, the whole miracle was that the Greeks tried to take away our understanding of what Torah is. And they made us feel doubtful. Should we follow what the Greeks are telling us to do? Or should we follow what the Torah is telling us to do? Not only that, but the Greeks said, hey, Jews, not only are we giving you these 3 laws that you can't keep, but you also have to have an open door policy. We have to be able to come inside your home and see and make sure that you're actually keeping this law and you're not keeping these 3 mitzvot. Open door policy, we can come in whenever we want. And the Jews were so scared, but they held strong with this idea. No, we have to keep the mitzvot. And that's where the whole dreidel idea comes from, right? They would keep the mitzvot in. And as soon as the Greeks would barge into their house because of the open door policy, they quickly kick out the games quickly. We're not really doing anything bad, right? Let's pretend we're not learning Torah. Let's pretend we're not keeping Shabbos. Let's just, spin the dreidel and play a game. And when they come in, they say, what are you doing? Oh, we're just playing a family game. Oh, great. That's wonderful. But that's what the threshold represented for Chanukah. That our door was an open door policy. It's so not a Jewish idea. And Chanukah brings the idea that there's balance in this world. Sometimes our doors have to be closed, and sometimes our doors have to be open. Sometimes we need to keep ourselves inside, and sometimes we need to open the door and sometimes see some beautiful things that are going on in the world and bring it into our home. And sometimes we have to say, no, that's not coming into my house. My house is holy. My house is kadosh. I'm keeping it holy here. And who better to do that than women? Women are the nurturers. Women are the ones that teach our children our first Torah. We're the ones that feed the baby. We're nursing the baby and we're singing Moda'ani. We're teaching our babies, our little children, what it means to have Torah in our homes. We're that Keret Habayit. We're the ones that keep our house so spiritual. And I want to share this beautiful idea. Every single, and we start off with saying that most surah, we sing the most surah, and learn about every single exile. In every exile, we were redeemed because of the women, the merits of the women. Because the women had hope and they believed. And when we say the last paragraph, Ani ma'amin, I believe that Mashiach is coming. It's so long. We're waiting so long to light those candles in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple. But Ani Ma'amin, the first letter is Ani is Aleph, and the first letter of Ma'amin is Mem, which spells out aim, mother. Because the women are the ones that are believers. We're the ones that teach the children Chalav, Chodesh, Mila, Shabbos. We're the ones that bring Torah into our homes. We're the ones that say, no, we care about our bodies. We care about Hashem. We care about time. We're the ones that teach that message to our Jewish children. And because of us, we're going to merit the new redemption and the final redemption. And that's what Hanukkah is all about. So when you eat your chalav, when you eat your dairy on Hanukkah, the next 2 nights, we have one more day. Think about Yehudit, the strong, courageous woman who not only physically won the war, but taught us that women are the ones that can spiritually redeem us from this exile.